Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everybody. Sorry again for the tardiness tonight. I had personal issues still again to deal with, but it's okay. I'm here now. And of course, I'm here to give you guys my art review. So today we're going to take, as usual, a quick look at portraiture, which is a style or type of art, whether you want to consider it as painting or photography or whatever you can think of. So we're taking a global look. So we're not necessarily looking at paintings per se, but just at of the idea of portraiture. Okay, so it's just a general, quick little look, guys. As usual, you guys know how I operate. My lives tend not to be very long, so hopefully you guys will still enjoy this anyways. So stay with me. We're gonna go to a quick commercial break in half a second here, guys, and we're gonna take, like I said, a quick look at portraiture paintings and photography and art in general. All right after this quick little commercial break. Hello. So we're back. So, of course, like I said before, we are taking a quick look at portraiture art. So, we're not necessarily looking at just paintings per se, but really the art form of portraiture. So, of course, guys, I got most of my information from Wikipedia as usual, and I will give you guys a few examples as well of portraitures and so forth, so that you guys have an example of what I'm talking about. Uh, so, most of what you guys will hear is, of course, from Wikipedia, but also my own personal opinions and thoughts on the topic as well. So, a quick little definition of what is portraiture photography or art. It is a visual representation of a person, usually their face, but it can include their entire body as well. Okay, and the whole point of it is to capture their personality and expression, whether it's in a painting, a sculpture, or a photograph. And of course, usually the person is looking in a different direction than you would expect. Um, and usually there's no break in the fourth wall, which is, of course, something that if you watch Deadpool, he would not love portraiture photography. He would be breaking the fourth wall all day long. So, of course, portraiture is one of the oldest forms of art that you can find. It is in prehistory, where in some cases they might have used actual human skulls with a primitive plaster, really trying to capture an ancestor and their lives and really, quote unquote, reanimate them into life, etc., and or to include them in certain ceremonies or rituals, etc. Um, some of the oldest that are still found can be found in the Middle East, and also yeah, in the Middle East and in other parts of Europe as well. But a lot of it is, like I said, Middle East. Most of the historical portraiture, okay, have a certain specific rules that they need to follow. So certain dimensions, certain looks, etc. Right, and usually the main goal is to idealize the person that you're trying to paint or sculpt or photograph. So it's not necessarily an accurate portrait of the person, but much more, if the person is in their 80s, you're going to paint them when they're 20 and young and pretty and beautiful and attractive, etc. Right? So you're really trying to capture the best elements of that person. Okay. You can also do. It also is sometimes involved funerary decorations, particularly for the Greco-Romans. So it often, um, you know, really to commemorate that person. Um, and the first were actually not of people. The first portraitures were not of people in power, but just common people. Uh, since obviously it was the whole goal was to remember the person that they loved. Let's see, what else can I say here? So the Romans as well started off with their portraitures of trying to really commemorate the person as they were, but they eventually did like what I was saying before, and they started to have idealized portraitures of people, and ended up being, of course, portraits that people of power and great importance as well. What else can I say here? Yeah. So, of course, the most well-known portrait is the one of Leonardo da Vinci, of course, of Mona Lisa. And we're going to show you guys that in a second here. Hello, hello, G Patrice. How are you? Thank you for being here. I'm obviously talking a little bit about portraiture in the arts and giving guys a little bit of an explanation of it. I'm hoping I'm not boring you, but I'm glad to have you here. So we're going to, of course, take a quick look at the Mona Lisa, which is, like I said, the most well-known portraiture that people know about. So give me a second here to share my screen. I hope you're doing well, Patrice. I hope everything is great. And I love your new hairdo in your icon. It looks very nice, I have to say. So I'm just going to share my screen here with you guys. So this is, of course, the famous Mona Lisa, of course, done by Leonardo da Vinci himself. Now, of course, there's many theories as to who this woman is, what is she looking at, why she's smiling. Of course, there's been many analyses, as you can see here. The left side background is very different from the right side background, etc., etc. And of course, this was one of the featured paintings in the Da Vinci Code. Hello, the Bud Files. How are you? So today I'm talking about portraiture in art. And of course, as you can see on screen, it's the famous Mona Lisa. So I won't go into all details about the Mona Lisa itself because that's obviously not the objective. I'm not here to talk to you guys about the Mona Lisa. But of course, it is the most well-known portraiture. Now, of course, officially, it is supposed to be the portrait of Lisa Gherardini. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I do not speak Italian. I wish I could say that word, that name a lot better, but unfortunately, I cannot. So the Mona Lisa is, of course, in the Louvre, and apparently it's not as big as we would think that it is. Let me see if they have the dimensions here. Yeah, so it's 30 inches by 21 inches. So it's a foot and a half by what, 2 feet? So it's a fairly small painting, right? It's not very, very big. And you guys can take out a measuring tape for yourselves and calculate what that actually looks like on a paper or a wall or something where you can easily erase whatever markings. So it's not a very big painting. So yeah, that's the most famous portrait that everybody knows about, which is, like I said, the Mona Lisa. So let's continue our little talk here. So there are three types of portraitures that you can do. There's, of course, the self-portrait, an official portrait, and a portrait photography. Okay, so self-portraiture is, of course, like the title says, nothing shocking here, is, of course, a portrait that the artist does of themselves. Now, it was really started by Bach. It's a Pharaoh Akhenaten's sculpture. Again, guys, I'm really bad with names, so I probably mispronounced that very badly. I apologize for all those that know how to say these words properly, but I'm not good with names. Hello, hello, Shane. How are you, Paralife? I hope you're doing well. Just sitting here talking about portraiture photography, and I hope you enjoy the show. And I hope you're doing well tonight, Shane. You did your 30 days of exercise. Yay! I'm so proud of you. You're a lot better than I am. It's been, I think, over a year now that I haven't been in the gym. And oh, I feel so sluggish and so horrible. Oh, I need to get back into the gym. But every time it's like, yeah, I'll do it next week. And always an excuse, unfortunately. I wish I was as brave and as dedicated as you to go to the gym and work out every day. But such is life sometimes. Such is life. So, yeah, I'm doing very good. Thank you, Shane. Thank you. And I hope your week has been doing good so far as well. So, I've been talking about portraiture photography. So, I gave a little bit before a little brief definition of what it is. Of course, talked about the famous Mona Lisa, which is, of course, the most well known uh, portraiture of them all. Yet, no problem. As the saying goes, right? Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So I'm glad to have seen you accomplish this big goal, and I know for you it was important for you to get that 30 days. So congrats on you. Keep it up. Add another 30 days if you can to it, because definitely exercise is extremely important to our health, both physical and mental health, and definitely a good habit to have to exercise every day, even if it's just 5, 10, 20 minutes, right? That's why I was kind of glad today. I walked quite a bit today, so it's not quite the same as your intense cardio, but it's better than nothing, right? So now I'm talking about the three different types of portraiture. So I'm talking a little bit briefly about self-portraiture. Okay. So like I said, Bach, which was one of the sculptors of a pharaoh, was one of the first to do it. Back in 1365 BC, where he carved himself and his wife as well. And but it could go back further than that. One of the theories is that those cave paintings were, man's first attempts at self-portraits. But who knows? That's just a theory. There's nothing provable of that. Of course, it avoids the use of models since you are your own model. Rembrandt and Van Gogh are two of the most well known for self portraitures. Van Gogh, of course, had his famous moment where his ear got cut off. There's different theories about that. And of course, he has a portrait. I'm not sure if it's a self portrait or just a regular portrait of his ear missing. And it can include basically a standalone moment where it's just that person, or a part of like the first pharaoh, the first sculpture guy, Bach, to have done it, where it's just him and his family or something like that. Usually, it's not an accident. Usually, if it's a self-portraiture, the person is usually doing a portrait mostly at an angle, and it's at a left angle because that's literally the part of the face that you're going to see if you're looking at yourself in a mirror to do a portrait, right? So that's why it's always the left hand side, or most of the time the left hand side. The other type of portraiture that you can do is, of course, an official portraiture. That's when, of course, a an artist is ordered or commanded. It sounds really, like horrible when you say ordered or commanded, but here in art, when you say ordered or commanded, it's really you're doing a transaction, right? You're being paid to do a portrait, which is why you say ordered or commanded, right? It's not in that you must do me, do this, do that, do it's really just, hey, here's $50, $100, whatever. Can you do a portrait of me? Now, of course, usually this means that the person is a dignitary or is of some importance or value. Um, Usually, especially if it's an artist of a big name or well known, they're not necessarily going to paint anybody and everybody, right? So you have to be, of a certain status in order to have an official portraiture. Now, of course, you might argue that a family portrait, uh, is part of that to some degree, a little bit, but not totally. Um, Usually, a family portrait, i.e., a family photo, would be more in the next category, which is, of course, a portrait photography, right? So that's usually something that's reserved for the everyday folks like you and me, where we're looking, hey, everybody, the kids are, it's a, I don't know, an anniversary or a big event, or little Timmy turned 5 or something, and you're gonna do a family portrait, right? Um, so it's not quite the same thing. An official portrait really is when a dignitary, a politician, a member of the royal family, that kind of person is going to order somebody, and it's really usually to commemorate an important event in that politician's or dignitary's life. Here in Canada, in the US, of course, we have official portraits of the Prime Minister here in Canada or the President in the US, which we're going to show. Let me get into that, guys. Uh, sorry, I should have prepared this at last minute. I had to do quite a few different things. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the Canadian official portraits that have been done. And usually this is done at the end of the office. So obviously only once. So obviously if there's somebody like Justin Trudeau, who's been reelected on a couple of occasions, they're not going to do two or three portraits. They're going to do usually just one, and that's about it. And usually same thing with the American presidents, but I could be wrong on that, guys, so don't quote me. But I think it's usually you do one portrait of the president or prime minister, and that's it. So I'm just going to find this here. And there we go. I'm going to share it with you guys. So I'll share this link to this if you guys are interested. So of course, as you guys can see, these are digitized versions of the portraits of the official Canadian prime ministers. All right. And of course, Harper and Trudeau, for some reason, have not officially been commissioned. But the last one of the before last one is Paul Martin. And of course, the famous, we're going to show this one, Jean Chrétien. A loved and not so loved artist, but I do like his official portrait. It's very unique and very different. So, and it was commissioned by and was done by Christian Martin Nicholson, a native of St. John's, New Brunswick, and a graduate of the Fine Arts program at Mount Allison University. So there you go. All right, so that's the official. That this is an official portraiture. All right, so there you go, and that's an example of an official portraiture. All right, guys. I'm also gonna go back a little bit. I do want to show you guys uh, some of Rembrandt's self-portraits. I do think that's important. Give me a second here, guys. All right, I'm gonna show you guys Rembrandt, one of his self-portraitures. So this right here is Rembrandt himself in one of his self-portraits. Now he does break one of the rules. He is breaking the fourth wall, i.e., the fourth wall being us, i.e., he's looking directly at us. But as you can see, we're seen at a left angle, right? So he's showing us his left side of his face mostly, right? There's a little bit of an angle. He's not looking directly at us or on his right side, right? So they do tend to be some rule breakers and things like that, but overall, there's still a certain amount of consistencies that occur. So Rembrandt and, like I said, Van Gogh are two of the biggest in portraiture and especially self-portraiture. So that was, of course, Rembrandt. So of course you have portrait photography, which is the other category in portraiture, and of course it is something that's very popular to do. Of course, two of the biggest one are family portraits, like I mentioned earlier before, but also of course, you know, the graduation books that so many of us in high school or elementary school get, because it's, you know, it's a quick and easy way to commemorate an important event or part of our lives, right? Uh, this is obviously a recent addition because obviously cameras uh, are fairly, you know, relatively new technology. They've been around technically for 100, 150 years, something like that, right? But cameras now are everywhere, right? We have a camera in our cell phone, right? Some people like myself have DSLRs, right? So having a portrait done is something that's, you know, cheap and easy to do, especially for portrait photography. Anybody and everybody can do this, right? Obviously, contemporary artists also try to blend portrait photography with other types or other forms, right? So it's not just about taking a photo of a person. So sometimes now they'll try to integrate it, maybe as a sculpture or you know, make it into a different style. I think of Picasso, right? When he does a portrait, his portraits are not like Rembrandt's portraits and so forth. So they really try to do things differently when it comes to modern art, and modern artists as well. And of course, you have artists like Kim Waldy, okay, who really try to do portrait photography in a very different way and try to inspire themselves from how things used to be done back in the day. And I'm going to also show him. Just give me a second to look him up, guys. So I'm going to show you guys one of his works. Actually, I'll do it. I'll show you from one of my. There we are. All right. So this isn't necessarily um, portrait photography per se, in the traditional sense, and this is kind of what I was mentioning quickly, how they blend certain things together. What you'll need to know about Kehinde Wilde, okay, so this is a painting that you can find at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. What he does is that he'll take a photo or a series of photos of the person sitting in a traditional pose or setting or what have you, and make modern touches. And he'll turn that photo he took into a contemporary painting. So it's not portrait photography in the traditional sense, but it's still using the techniques of portrait photography to create a painting and a portrait. So that's why they were saying that a lot of cases you're blending several different styles here together. And typically he goes with African American models and often posing in traditional European poses or portraiture poses, etc. So it often evokes, traditional styles or ways of things that used to be done, but with a much more modern twist. So obviously you have an African American man tattooed up, but in this very traditional pose. Let me get you guys some more details of it. So this is Simeon the God Receiver. Simeon is a biblical character. So that's why I was saying that a lot of times it's based on something that's traditional or back in the day, right? So this is something that you can, you can link up how things used to be done with how things are presented these days, right? Um, and this is an athlete. Let me see if I can find who this is exactly. Uh, oh yeah, Eric Murphy. Okay, is the model. Okay, who of course has many different tattoos and so forth. And you'll find the logo of Rolling Stones. So again, this painting refers to a lot of different things, but in particular, I think Simeon is an angel, if I remember correctly, in the Bible. So, but again, it's really this painting is really here to visualize a lot of other stuff, right? So you see the Rolling Stones here, and lots of different tattoos that refer to other things. Of course, you have the poppy field, etc., right? So you have a lot of things, a lot of imagery going on in this painting, right? So that's what with modern portraiture is not just about representing the person anymore. It's not about idealizing them necessarily, like what we saw beforehand. It's really about talking about a story about that person or what that person has to say about themselves or the world that they find themselves in, etc. Right? So it's bringing in, blending in several different things together, right? So let's see here. So in politics, obviously, a portrait is often commissioned to commemorate a political figure, and oftentimes, obviously, can be used as propaganda to a certain degree. Obviously, the what we saw with not Justin Trudeau's, but Jean Chrétien's. He broke tradition. He's using yellow in his portraiture. It's very aggressive color, very conflicting. While as the other portraits that you might have seen for the prime ministers, there were lots of browns and reds and was very dark and humble and all that, while his yellow and bold and really just stood out from everything else, right? When you compare his portraiture to everything else, his stands out a lot to everybody else's, right? So there's a certain amount of storytelling, a certain amount of propaganda that comes with it. Um, and in literature, when you're talking about literature, a portrait really is much more given the basic characteristics of the person, so that either the author and or us as the reader can understand the character themselves. So that was my overall look of portraiture in arts. I hope that you guys looked at it, liked it, and enjoyed it. But let me see here if I can show you guys a couple of more portraits. Yeah, that's a good one I can use here. So this is another portrait that I can share. This is again from my many, many excursions to various museums and so forth. So this is another way of doing a portrait. So it's not a traditional portrait in the sense that you're just seeing a person's face and that's it. Here you're seeing two people, the governess and her ward. So here you're seeing a whole scenario. It's telling you of a story. Of course, it leads you to ask like what's going on, what's being said between the governess and her students, etc. Right? Um, so you see that there's emotion and action in that painting, right? And that it's not just somebody staring back at you blank, uh, and not really, saying or doing anything. So this one is, like I said, called The Governess by Jean-Simeon Chardin, who's a French artist in the 1700s. This is a pear, and it's, of course, the pear is returned from market. And of course, they're here to explore, as the description says, domestic life uh, which is Chardin's speciality. So that was a quick look at another way of doing a portrait. Just like I said, it's not a traditional portrait in the sense where you're seeing the person, but here it's another way of showing that portraits can also portray, as the title of this type of work indicates. It can portray a person's life, a person's duties, responsibilities, etc., and not just the person themselves, right? So that's it for tonight, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this little quick tour of portrait photography, portrait art, I should say, in general, although we did take a look at portrait photography as well. I hope that you found this informative and enjoyable. And if you guys have any suggestions for other topics that you would like for me to talk about or present, let me know. I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to do it, but I will at least listen to what you guys have to say. So I hope you guys, like I said, enjoyed it and found it informative. And have a great night. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow night, where I'm going to have a quick little read of the Game of Thrones. So I hope you guys like that. You're very welcome, Shane, and I hope I see you continuing your workout, because I do like seeing you work out. It's nice seeing people work out and encouraging me. Like I know I need to get back to the gym. I need to get back, but I'm still working on a stable work schedule, so it's tough. I know excuses. I know, Shane. I know. But don't worry. I hope to see you in one of your lives or in mine tomorrow. Thank you for being here, Shane, and supporting me in my little YouTube adventures. And I hope to catch you tomorrow morning working out, or in Shane from Great Farmer Freelances Live, whichever one comes first. All right, so have a great night, Shane. Thank you for being here and supporting me in my YouTube life. Yeah, bedtime for you. Yeah, good. Don't sleep too much. Don't worry. Yeah, that's why you need to. That's why you need to start it back up, Shane. Have a good one, Shane. Have a great night. Sleep tight and don't let the bed bugs bite. All right, Shane. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you, OG Patrice and Bud Files, for being here as well, even if it was briefly. It's absolutely fantastic to have all of your support. Have a great night, guys. Bye. Au revoir.